The first letter, the fluorescent lights of Memorial Hospital, hummed their familiar tune as Natalie Brooks pulled her brown hair into a practical ponytail. Another 12-hour shift awaited her in the emergency room, and she needed every ounce of energy she could muster. At 28, she had already seen more medical emergencies than most people witnessed in a lifetime, but her compassion never wavered. She opened her staff locker, expecting to find only her spare scrubs and the photo of her late father she kept taped inside. Instead, a cream-colored envelope rested against her belongings, her name written in elegant handwriting.
At.
Across the front, Natalie glanced around the empty changing room before carefully opening the envelope. Inside, she found a single card with words that made her breath catch. Your kindness yesterday with the elderly patient in room 7 reminded me why this hospital has heart. Some people wear scrubs, but you wear grace. There was no signature, only a small sketch of a stethoscope intertwined with a rose at the bottom of the card. Natalie read the message 3 times, her heart beating faster with each pass. Someone had been watching her, noticing her work, appreciating her dedication in ways that went beyond professional courtesy. Our nurse's daily life, the morning shift began with its usual chaos. Ambulances arrived carrying accident victims. Worried families filled the waiting room. And the constant beeping of monitors created a symphony of urgency that Natalie had learned to navigate with practiced ease.
Natalie,
"We need you in Trauma Bay 3, called Rebecca Torres, her closest friend and fellow nurse. Car accident victim, multiple injuries." Natalie rushed to the bay, her mind immediately focusing on the task at hand. A young woman lay on the gurney, conscious but frightened. Natalie took her hand, speaking in the calm, reassuring voice that had comforted countless patients. "I'm Natalie, and I'm going to take care of you. You're safe now. Can you tell me your name?" As she worked, Natalie didn't notice the figure standing in the observation area above the trauma bay. James Whitmore, the hospital administrator, watched through the glass as Natalie moved with practiced efficiency. Her technical skills matched only by her genuine compassion. He had been watching her for weeks, admiring not just her beauty, but the light she brought to the darkest moments of people's lives. More letters arrived the next morning. Another letter waited in Natalie's locker. This one read, "You stayed 2 hours past your shift yesterday to comfort that accident victim's mother. Your dedication doesn't go unnoticed. The world needs more people like you." Natalie felt a flutter in her chest. Whoever was writing these letters knew her schedule, her actions, the small moments she thought no one else saw. It should have felt invasive, but instead it felt like being truly seen for the first time in years. Another secret admirer letter? Rebecca teased, peering over Natalie's shoulder in the break room. "I don't know who it is," Natalie admitted, carefully tucking the letter into her bag. "But they seem to notice everything I do. Girl, that's either really romantic or really creepy. Let's hope it's the first one." Throughout the week, more letters appeared. Each one referenced specific moments from her shifts, the way she calmed a crying child, how she advocated for a homeless patient who needed treatment, the extra care she took with elderly patients who reminded her of her late father. The words were always thoughtful, never crossing into inappropriate territory. And each letter was signed with that same small sketch of a stethoscope and rose. Brief encounters, Natalie began paying more attention to the people around her, trying to identify her mysterious admirer. The hospital was huge, employing hundreds of people, and the letter writer could be anyone. One afternoon, she literally collided with someone while rushing to respond to a code blue. Strong hands steadied her, and she looked up into warm brown eyes that seemed to hold secrets. "I'm so sorry," James Whitmore said, his voice deeper than she expected. "Are you all right, Nurse Brooks?" "I'm fine, just clumsy," Natalie replied, surprised that the hospital administrator knew her name. She had seen him during staff meetings, always professional and slightly distant. "Running the hospital with efficient precision, not clumsy," James said softly, his hands still on her shoulders for a moment longer than necessary. "Dedicated. There's a difference." Their eyes held for several heartbeats before Natalie's pager beeped urgently. She mumbled an apology and rushed away, leaving James standing in the corridor. Watching her disappear around the corner, that night, another letter appeared. I'm sorry for making you late to your emergency today. Even brief moments near you feel like stolen treasures. Your presence makes ordinary hallways feel like somewhere special. Growing connection as days turned into weeks. Natalie found herself looking forward to the letters more than she wanted to admit. The anonymous writer shared small pieces of himself too, mentioning a love of classical music, a collection of vintage medical books, and late-night walks through the city when sleep wouldn't come. Natalie began writing responses, leaving them in the same spot where she found the letters. She wrote about her dreams of one day opening a free clinic in underserved neighborhoods, her love of old movies, and how she talked to her late father's photo every morning before work. The correspondence became a conversation, two souls connecting through carefully chosen words on paper. Natalie felt herself falling for someone she had never properly met, someone who saw past her exhaustion and appreciated the person. She tried to be every single day. The puzzle pieces. Rebecca noticed the change in her friend. You're glowing, Nat. Like, actually glowing. These letters are getting to you. Is it crazy to feel connected to someone you've never really talked to? Natalie asked, sipping her coffee during a rare quiet moment. Depends. Do you have any guesses about who it is? Natalie thought about the encounters she'd had over the past weeks. The way Dr. Patterson from cardiology always smiled at her. How the pharmacy technician Miguel sometimes left extra supplies at her station. The physical therapist who always asked about her day, but her mind kept drifting back to that moment with James Whitmore. The hospital administrator. The way he had looked at her, like she was something precious and fragile. The warmth in his eyes that contradicted his reputation for professional distance. I think I might know, Natalie whispered, but it seems impossible. An unexpected discovery one evening. Natalie was working late, finishing paperwork in the nurse's station. Most of the administrative offices were dark, but she noticed light coming from under the administrator's office door. Curiosity and a growing suspicion drew her down the hallway. Through the partially open door, she could see James Whitmore sitting at his desk, writing something by hand on cream-colored stationery. The same cream-colored paper her letters were written on, as she watched. He pulled out a small stamp and carefully pressed it to the bottom of the page. When he lifted the stamp, Natalie's heart stopped. It was the stethoscope and rose design. James looked up suddenly, as if sensing her presence. Their eyes met across the distance, and Natalie saw everything in his expression: surprise, vulnerability, hope, and fear all mixed together. Natalie, he said softly. Standing up from his desk, she stepped into the office, her hands trembling. It's you. You've been writing the letters? James nodded slowly. I know I should have told you sooner. I know this is probably inappropriate, given that I'm technically your supervisor, but I couldn't help myself. You're extraordinary, Natalie, and I needed you to know that someone sees it. Natalie moved closer, her mind racing. The hospital administrator, a man who could have anyone, had been secretly admiring her through letters. The man who ran million-dollar budgets and made decisions that affected hundreds of employees had been leaving. Her love notes like a nervous teenager. Why didn't you just talk to me? She asked. 'Cause I was afraid, James admitted. Afraid that you'd see the position I hold and think I had ulterior motives. Afraid that the difference in our professional status would make you uncomfortable. Afraid that you wouldn't feel the same way. And now? Natalie whispered, standing just inches from him now. Now I'm still afraid, James said, reaching out to gently touch her cheek. But I'm more afraid of never telling you the truth. Natalie Brooks, I have been falling in love with you, one letter at a time, one observed moment of your kindness at a time. I know it's complicated and messy and probably against several hospital policies, but I can't pretend anymore. Natalie felt tears forming in her eyes. James, I've been falling in love with you too. With your words, with the person who sees me in ways no one else does. The moment hung between them, charged with possibility. James leaned closer, and Natalie's eyes fluttered closed, ready for the kiss that would change everything. But before their lips could meet, a sharp voice cut through the moment like a blade. How touching! The administrator and the nurse. This is quite the scandal. They sprang apart to find Dr. Patricia Hammond standing in the doorway, her arms crossed and a cold smile on her face. The ambitious cardiologist had been trying to catch James's attention for months, and her expression made it clear she wasn't pleased with what she'd discovered.
Amen.
Dr. Hammond, James said, his voice immediately professional despite the emotion still evident in his eyes. This is a private conversation. Private? Patricia laughed harshly. In the administrator's office? During work hours? I don't think so. I wonder what the hospital board would think about their administrator carrying on with staff members, especially when that staff member might be receiving favorable treatment. Natalie felt her stomach drop. This was exactly what she had feared, the moment when their connection would be twisted into something ugly and political. The confrontation, Natalie felt the blood drain from her face as Dr. Patricia Hammond's words hung in the air like poison. The beautiful moment she had shared with James now felt tainted. Exposed under harsh fluorescent lighting and judgmental eyes.
Dr. Hammond.
You're misunderstanding the situation, James said, stepping slightly in front of Natalie in a protective gesture that didn't go unnoticed by Patricia. Am I? Patricia's smile was sharp as broken glass. Because what I see is the hospital administrator in a compromising position with a nurse. A nurse who, coincidentally, just received a promotion to lead trauma nurse last month. I'm sure that was purely based on merit. Natalie's hands clenched into fists at her sides. I earned that promotion through 5 years of exceptional service. My performance reviews speak for themselves, do they? Patricia moved further into the office, her heels clicking against the tile floor. Or did they speak to someone who was already infatuated with you? How long has this been going on, Natalie? How many promotions and favors have you collected while batting your eyelashes at the man with all the power? That's enough. James's voice dropped to a dangerous register that Natalie had never heard before. You're out of line. Dr. Hammond. Natalie's professional accomplishments have nothing to do with our personal relationship, which only recently began. Patricia laughed bitterly. Recently? Please. Everyone's been talking about how the administrator watches the pretty little nurse. You're not as subtle as you think, James. Natalie felt humiliation burning through her veins, but beneath it, anger was beginning to bloom. She had worked too hard, sacrificed too much, to have her achievements questioned by someone who barely knew her. You know what, Dr. Hammond? Natalie stepped forward, her voice steady, despite the turmoil inside. I have saved lives in this hospital. I have held the hands of dying patients, comforted grieving families, and worked double shifts when we were understaffed. I have earned every single recognition I've received through my dedication and skill. If you want to question that because you're jealous that James sees something in me that he doesn't see in you, that says more about your character than mine. The silence that followed was deafening. Patricia's face flushed red, her carefully maintained composure cracking. You have no idea what you're getting into, Patricia hissed. James Whitmore comes from one of the wealthiest families in the state. His mother sits on the hospital board. You think she's going to accept a nurse as a suitable match for her son? You're living in a fantasy, Natalie. Seeds of doubt later that night, alone in her small apartment. Natalie couldn't stop Patricia's words from echoing in her mind. She looked around at her modest home. The second-hand furniture she'd bought when she first started working, the walls that needed painting, the kitchen with its outdated appliances. Then she thought about James. About the expensive suits he wore, the luxury car she'd seen him drive, the way he carried himself with the confidence of someone who'd never worried about money. Her phone buzzed with a text from James. Please don't let Patricia's words affect you. You're amazing, and I meant everything I said. Can we talk tomorrow? Natalie stared at the message for a long time before responding, I need some time to think. This is more complicated than I realized. She spent a restless night tossing and turning, her dreams filled with disapproving faces and whispered accusations. By morning, she had convinced herself that maybe Patricia was right. Maybe she and James were from worlds too different to bridge. The mothers. Intervention in Natalie's fears materialized 3 days. Later, when she received a call from an unknown number during her lunch break. Miss Brooks, this is Helen Whitmore, James's mother. I think we need to have a conversation. Natalie's heart sank, but she agreed to meet at a cafe near the hospital. Helen Whitmore was everything Natalie expected, perfectly styled silver hair. designer clothes, jewelry that probably cost more than Natalie's annual salary, and eyes that assessed Natalie like a specimen under a microscope. "Thank you for meeting me," Helen said, though her tone suggested it wasn't really a request. "I'll be direct. My son is infatuated with you, but infatuation fades. What remains is reality, and the reality is that you're not suitable for him." Natalie felt like she'd been slapped. "With all due respect, Mrs. Whitmore, that should be James's decision, not yours." "Should it?" Helen stirred her tea with deliberate precision. "James has responsibilities. Our family has built a medical empire over 3 generations. The person who stands beside him needs to understand board meetings, charity, galas, political donations, and social expectations. Can you do that, Miss Brooks? Can you navigate high society dinner parties and make small talk with senators and hospital benefactors?" "I can learn," Natalie said, though her voice wavered slightly. "But should you have to?" Helen leaned forward, her expression almost sympathetic. "I'm not saying you're not a lovely person, dear. I'm sure you're excellent at your job. But there's a difference between being a good nurse and being the partner of someone in James's position. Don't you want to be with someone who accepts you exactly as you are, rather than someone whose world requires you to change everything about yourself?" The words struck deep because they touched Natalie's own fears. She had been thinking the same thing for days. "I have connections throughout this city's medical community," Helen continued, her voice taking on a harder edge. "One word from me, and you'll find it difficult to work at any reputable hospital in the state." "I don't want to do that, Natalie. I actually admire your dedication. But I will protect my son's future, even from his own romantic impulses." Natalie stood up, her legs shaky, but her spine straight. "Is that a threat, Mrs. Whitmore?" "It's a reality check." Helen's smile was cold. "Think about what I've said. Sometimes loving someone means letting them go to live the life they were meant to have." James learns the truth. Natalie avoided James for 2 days after her meeting with his mother. She threw herself into work, picking up extra shifts, staying late to reorganize supply closets that didn't need organizing. Anything to avoid thinking about the impossible situation she found herself in. But James Whitmore hadn't become a successful hospital administrator by giving up easily. He cornered her in the staff break room on the 3rd day, his usually composed expression showing signs of strain. "Natalie, please, talk to me. What happened?" She tried to walk past him, but he gently caught her arm. "Did Patricia threaten you again?" "Because I've already spoken to her supervisor about her behavior." "It's not Patricia," Natalie said quietly, pulling away from his touch because it hurt too much to feel his warmth when she knew she had to let him go. "It's your mother." James's entire body went rigid. "My mother contacted you?" Natalie told him everything about the cafe meeting, about the thinly veiled threats, about the questions that had planted seeds of doubt in her mind. With each word, she watched James's expression shift from shock to anger to something that looked like heartbreak. "I'm so sorry," James said, his voice rough with emotion. "I should have anticipated this. I should have protected you." "It's not about protection, James." Natalie blinked back tears. "It's about reality. Your mother is right about some things. We are from different worlds. I don't know anything about your life outside this hospital. I don't know if I can be what you need, what I need." James moved closer, his eyes blazing with intensity. "Natalie, you are exactly what I need. I don't care about charity galas or political connections. I care about coming home to someone who understands the weight of life and death decisions. Someone who sees people as humans, not assets. Someone who makes me want to be better than I am." "But your family? Your position? Your future?" Natalie protested weakly. "My future is meaningless if you're not in it." James took her hands, holding them against his chest where she could feel his heart racing. "Natalie, I have spent 35 years living the life other people expected of me. I gave up practicing medicine to run this hospital because it's what my father wanted. I attended the right schools, joined the right clubs, dated the right people, and I was miserable. Then I saw you calming a terrified child in the ER, and something in me woke up. You reminded me why I wanted to be a doctor in the first place. You reminded me that life is about more than profit margins and social standing. The stand I'm going to my mother's house right now, James said firmly. And I'm going to make it absolutely clear that you are not negotiable. If she wants to remain part of my life, she will accept and respect the woman I love. If she threatens your career, I will use every resource I have to protect you. James, you can't destroy your relationship with your family for me, Natalie whispered. Not destroying anything. I'm setting boundaries that should have been set years ago. He cupped her face gently. Natalie, I love you. Not the idea of you, not a fantasy, but the real, complicated, beautiful woman standing in front of me. I love how you sing softly to patients who can't sleep. I love how you cry in the supply closet after losing someone, even though you've seen death 100 times. I love how you remember every patient's name and ask about their families. I love you, and I'm not giving up without a fight. Natalie felt tears streaming down her face. I love you too. I'm just scared. Then be scared with me, James said, pressing his forehead against hers. But don't run away. Promise me you won't run away. I promise, Natalie whispered. James kissed her then, soft and sweet and full of promise. When they pulled apart, he had the determined look of a man preparing for battle. Wait here, he said. I'll be back in a few hours, and then we're going to figure this out together. The family confrontation in the Whitmore estate was exactly as imposing as Natalie had imagined. James parked his car in the circular driveway and took a deep breath before entering the home where he'd grown up. His mother was in the sitting room, reading a medical journal and sipping wine. She looked up with practiced surprise when he entered. James, darling, I wasn't expecting you. We need to talk about Natalie Brooks. James remained standing, his posture rigid. And we need to talk about boundaries. Helen set down her journal with a sigh. I was protecting you. No, you were controlling me. There's a difference. James's voice was steady but firm. I'm 35 years old, Mother. I run a hospital with 3,000 employees and a budget of $500 million. I make life and death decisions every day. But you still treat me like a child who can't choose his own partner? Woman is not right for you. That woman has a name, Natalie, and she is exactly right for me. James sat down across from his mother. Do you know why I gave up practicing medicine? It wasn't just because Dad asked me to. It was because I was burned out, exhausted by the pressure to be perfect, to never show weakness. I was drowning, and I didn't know how to ask for help. Helen's expression softened slightly. I didn't know you felt that way, because I never told you. Because in this family, we don't talk about feelings or fears. We maintain appearances. James leaned forward. But Natalie changed that. She sees through my walls. She knows when I've had a hard day, even when I'm pretending everything is fine. She makes me laugh. She challenges me. She makes me want to be the man I thought I could be before the weight of expectations crushed that dream. I just want you to be happy. Then accept the woman who makes me happy. James's voice was gentle, but unyielding. Accept her, or accept that you won't be part of my future. I'm not issuing ultimatums lightly, Mother. I love you. But I love Natalie more, and I will choose her every single time. Helen was quiet for a long moment, studying her son's face. Finally, she spoke. She must be extraordinary for you to risk everything. She is, James said simply. Then I suppose I need to meet her properly. Without threats or intimidation this time. James felt relief flooding through him. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Helen said dryly. If she breaks your heart, I reserve the right to say, I told you so. Deal, James said with a small smile. The hospital, Gala 3, weeks later. Natalie found herself standing in front of the mirror in James's downtown penthouse, hardly recognizing her own reflection. The navy blue gown James had chosen hugged her figure perfectly, and her hair was styled in elegant waves that cascaded over her shoulders. You look breathtaking, James said from the doorway, looking devastatingly handsome in his black tuxedo. The hospital's annual charity gala was the social event of the medical community's calendar. It was where Natalie and James would make their first official public appearance as a couple, and her nerves were threatening to overwhelm her. What if people stare? What if they whisper? Natalie fretted, adjusting her dress for the 100th time. James crossed the room and took her hands. Let them stare. Let them whisper. All that matters is that we're together and we're happy. Everything else is just noise. The gala was held in the grand ballroom of the Riverside Hotel, with crystal chandeliers and tables decorated with white roses. As Natalie and James entered, she felt dozens of eyes turned toward them. She heard the whispers starting, saw the raised eyebrows and surprised expressions. James squeezed her hand reassuringly and led her into the crowd with his head held high. James. Good to see you, said Dr. Morrison, the chief of surgery. His eyes flickered to Natalie with obvious curiosity. And who is this lovely lady? This is Natalie Brooks, my girlfriend, James said proudly. Natalie, Dr. Morrison is our chief of surgery. We've met, actually, Dr. Morrison said with a warm smile. Natalie is one of our finest trauma nurses. You saved my nephew's life last year after that motorcycle accident. Natalie felt some of her tension ease. How is Tommy doing? Thriving, thanks to you, Dr. Morrison said. He's back in college and wearing a helmet now. As the evening progressed, Natalie discovered that many of the doctors and administrators she'd been nervous about meeting were actually kind and welcoming. They asked about her work, praised her dedication, seemed genuinely happy for her and James. Rebecca found her during cocktail hour and pulled her aside. Girl, you look like a princess. And James can't take his eyes off you. Is it too much? Natalie asked nervously. It's perfect. You're perfect. Rebecca hugged her tightly. I'm so proud of you for not giving up. An unexpected honor midway through dinner. The hospital's board chairman approached the podium for the awards portion of the evening. Natalie barely paid attention, focused on not spilling anything on her expensive dress. Our next award recognizes excellence in patient care and leadership, the chairman announced. This year's recipient has shown extraordinary dedication, compassion, and skill. She has mentored new nurses, improved our trauma protocols, and consistently goes above and beyond for her patients. It is my pleasure to present the Excellence in Nursing Award to Natalie Brooks. Natalie froze, certain she had misheard, but Rebecca was squealing beside her and James was smiling with obvious pride. And everyone at their table was applauding. Go, James whispered, kissing her cheek. You earned this. On shaky legs, Natalie made her way to the stage. The chairman handed her a crystal award and gestured to the microphone. I don't have a speech prepared, Natalie admitted, her voice trembling slightly. I honestly had no idea this was happening. But I want to say that being a nurse isn't just my job. It's my calling. Every patient I care for teaches me something about strength, resilience, and the preciousness of life. This award belongs to every nurse who has ever held a patient's hand during their darkest moment, who has celebrated victories and mourned losses, who has chosen compassion over convenience. Thank you for this honor. The applause was thunderous. As Natalie returned to her seat, she saw that even some of the stern board members had tears in their eyes. James pulled her into his arms the moment she sat down. I am so incredibly proud of you, he whispered against her hair, meeting the mother again later in the evening. Natalie spotted Helen Whitmore across the ballroom. James's mother looked regal in a silver gown, speaking with a group of hospital benefactors. When she noticed Natalie and James approaching, she excused herself and met them halfway. Congratulations on your award, Helen said to Natalie. Her tone was formal but not hostile. It seems my son chose well after all. Thank you, Mrs. Whitmore, Natalie replied, keeping her voice polite but reserved. Helen studied her for a moment. I owe you an apology for our first meeting. I was protecting my son, but I went about it the wrong way. James has helped me understand that true protection means supporting his happiness, not controlling his choices. Natalie felt some of the tension leave her shoulders. I appreciate that. I want you to know that I love your son very much, and I have no intention of changing who he is or pulling him away from his family. I'm beginning to see that, Helen said with a small smile. Perhaps we could have lunch sometime. A proper one, where I ask about your interests and your family instead of making threats. I would like that, Natalie said sincerely. James looked between the two women with obvious relief. Thank you both for trying. Don't get too comfortable, Helen told her son dryly. I'm still going to be critical and opinionated, but I'll direct it at your hospital management decisions instead of your romantic ones. James laughed. I wouldn't expect anything less. Under the stars after the gala ended, James suggested they take a walk instead of heading straight home. He drove them to a park overlooking the city, where the lights of downtown sparkled like earthbound stars. I used to come here when I was stressed in medical school, James explained as they walked hand in hand along the path. It helped me remember why I wanted to be a doctor, to help people, to make a difference. Do you miss it? Natalie asked. Practicing medicine? Sometimes, James admitted. But running the hospital lets me help people in different ways. I can ensure we have the best equipment, hire talented staff, create programs that serve the community. It's not the same as direct patient care, but it matters. They stopped at a bench overlooking the city. James turned to face Natalie, taking both her hands in his. These past few weeks with you have been the happiest of my life, he said. Even with all the drama and obstacles, every moment has been worth it because I got to spend it with you. James, Natalie whispered, seeing something shift in his expression. I know we've only been officially together for a short time, James continued. I know some people would say we're rushing things, but when you know, you know. And Natalie Brooks, I know with absolute certainty that I want to spend the rest of my life with you. He dropped to one knee, pulling a small velvet box from his jacket pocket. Natalie's hands flew to her mouth as tears spilled down her cheeks. I'm not asking you to marry me right now, James said quickly. I know you need time and I want to do this right. But I'm asking you to accept this ring as a promise. A promise that I'm committed to building a future with you. A promise that whatever obstacles come our way, we'll face them together. A promise that my love for you isn't going anywhere. He opened the box to reveal a simple but elegant ring with a single diamond that caught the moonlight. Natalie Brooks, will you accept my promise? Yes, Natalie sobbed, laughing and crying at the same time. Yes, 1,000 times yes. James slipped the ring onto her finger and stood, pulling her into his arms. They kissed under the stars and Natalie felt like she was exactly where she belonged. I love you, she whispered against his lips. I love you too, James replied. Always. Epilogue. 6 months later, the free clinic opened on a sunny Saturday morning in the neighborhood where Natalie had grown up. It was a modest facility, funded by a combination of hospital donations, private benefactors, and a significant contribution from the Whitmore Family Foundation. Natalie stood behind the front desk in her scrubs, feeling a sense of fulfillment she had never experienced before. This was her dream. Place where people without insurance could receive quality medical care, regardless of their ability to pay. James appeared in the doorway, carrying 2 cups of coffee. He had given up his tie and expensive suit for jeans and a casual shirt, looking more relaxed than she'd ever seen him. Our first patient is here, he announced. An elderly gentleman with diabetes who hasn't seen a doctor in 2 years because he couldn't afford it. Let's take care of him, Natalie said. Accepting the coffee with a grateful smile, they worked side by side throughout the day. Natalie handling nursing duties while James had returned to practicing medicine on a volunteer basis. Between patients, they stole kisses and shared private smiles. 2 people who had found each other through anonymous letters and fought for their love. Against all odds, as the sun set and they locked up the clinic, Natalie leaned against James's chest, feeling his heartbeat steady and strong. Thank you, she said softly. For what? For seeing me. For loving me. For building this with me? James kissed the top of her head. Thank you for teaching me that life is about more than meeting expectations. You showed me what really matters. They walked to James's car hand in hand, the promise ring on Natalie's finger catching the last rays of sunlight. In 6 more months, it would be replaced by a wedding band. But for now, this was enough to people from different worlds who had found their way to each other through written words and genuine hearts. Their love story had started with anonymous letters left in a hospital locker. It had survived family opposition, professional obstacles, and their own fears and doubts. And now it was becoming a legacy of service, compassion, and the unshakable belief that love could conquer anything when 2 people were brave enough to fight for it.